Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge, and welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. I'm here in the sanctuary. I'm super pumped up for this show, and got to give a couple shout outs. One is to Chris Knapp and Accessiversity and all the help that he gives me, the community, other businesses, in making sure that one, software and platforms are accessible to people, but also physical spaces and all of that. So thanks, Chris, for all the work you do, and thanks for always helping us out, trying to improve, and remove those barriers that we put in the way sometimes. Also want to give a shout out to the champ, Joe Walker, with thisent.com, and everything that you're doing, man. I love the way you are boosting signals and telling the good stories and all of that. So thanks for giving us an alternative to sometimes the tiring things. Now, my guest, Erica Lynn, how you doing today?
Hey, Jerry. How's it going?
It's going great, except for when I was playing my intro, I started thinking about your guys' intro, and I think it's Dougie Fresh, right? And I just love your guys' intro. And Shannon, I'm going to call her out right now. She will not help me make an intro like yours, but she's super smart because it would look really dorky, her and I trying to do, I don't know, I'd probably try to do some Run DMC or something.
If I would have known how hard it was going to be to do, man, it was, I mean, like, it was, Mike, it was kind of easier for him, but me, I was like, this is hard. I was like sweating by the time we got done.
You must hear that it's super badass, though, all the time.
We do, which we hear that all people are like, I love your guys' intro and this and that. And we just kind of did it, like, Mike's like, oh, we should do this because we love that beat. And then we started thinking about how could we play on the words. And now it's just like, when it comes down, we rock to it,
It's, I love that intro. I can't say enough about it. And I slipped a little bit there because I love my intro too. So no offense to the artist there is Jeremy Hurt.
Oh, it's pretty dope.
Yeah. So, but I had to compliment you on yours because it's so good. Hey, who do you want to give a shout out to? I got to give a couple shout outs.
Oh, sure. Let's see. We've had a lot of projects going on, but this past Sunday, we actually did a really cool project with Lynn, who is from the Mind of Mila. And she and another artist, I think it's Christina Castilla, maybe, they brought in a tantrum tent for like the kids, and it was to like express their emotions. And it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Like you go in there and there's just paint everywhere. You can throw it, you can splash it, you can do whatever you want. And then they also did pottery. So they painted potters, and you can kind of sit down, do it however you want. And you got, a seed to take home, and they talk to you about what that means, how to take care of it. I thought that was really cool. And we got our picnic table, which was given to us by Punks with Lunch. Shout out to Julia Miller for that. We got that painted as well. So that was pretty dope. I thought that was cool. Another shout out, I would just say to my family lately, like, especially my husband, my son, like I have the absolute best support system ever. Sometimes I'm just like, we are doing way too much. We are all doing way too much. But like the way that they support me in anything like I ever tried to do or think of doing, I'm going to get all the way gassed up about it between my husband and my son. So, they're just awesome in that way.
I'm going to want to explore that a little bit more when we get in the future of the show. Sure. But, it's funny. I was driving down Kalamazoo right before the show, and well, maybe an hour before the show. But Mila was getting in her car and taking off, and I was like, I should stop and talk to her. But she was probably supporting some people at the Allen Neighborhood Center there.
Nice.
Mr. Cheesecake and all those guys.
Yeah, some dope people in our city.
Yeah. Let's get into you a little bit. Where were you born and raised? Where'd you go to school? What what's your deal, man?
So I was born and raised in Lansing, Michigan, and I actually, which is why I love the Fledge and where it's at, I grew up primarily on the east side. So I grew up on the east side. I actually went to Allen Elementary when Allen was a thing. So I went to Allen Elementary, and then I went to Pattongill, the old Pattongill though. So I went to the
Hmm.
old Pattongill that was still connected to Eastern. And then so actually grew up on Regent Street, right between Michigan Ave and Kalamazoo. I actually lived in three houses on Regent Street.
Mm.
Don't ask me why, but three different houses. So walked to school, to Pattongill, and I actually went to Eastern for my freshman year. A little known fact. A lot of people don't know that about me. I went to Eastern my freshman year, and then we ended up moving to the South Side, and I went to Everett, and I ended up graduating for Everett. So class of 2000 Viking, which I don't have to say. I know you're a Quaker, but everybody knows Everett's where it's at. So I just gotta
Well,
say that.
I'll give you a little known fact then, maybe. I went to 10th grade. My sophomore year was we were only 10th, 11th, and 12th when I was back in the 80s. But 10th grade, I was at Everett. So I'm a Viking too.
Oh,
I grew,
okay.
I grew up my whole life, including where I was born on the South Side. My whole family lived on the South Side. I'm a South
Yeah,
Sider at heart
there
with
you
my
go.
childhood. I'm on the east side right now, and I think even Michael posted something the other day or today even that all the sides matter. So
That's
I want to be
true.
all
Ab-
sides.
Absolutely. I actually started off in the north side. I went to Willow Elementary for kindergarten, first and second. So
See, you
went
can't
between
be
a few different
skipping.
schools.
You can't be
I
skipping
know.
stuff. And
I forgot about that. I did go to Willow Elementary.
when I
Yep.
moved over to Eastern to go to Eastern to Russell, I went to Sadie Court, which is by Pisano's up there on the north
Oh,
side.
okay, okay. Yeah, I lived on the east side back when Spad's Pizza was still right there on the corner.
I
So,
know. Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
yep.
Um, so you go to Everett. What happens after Everett? What'd you do?
So Everett, I had our son my senior year. So I was at Everett and I was pregnant my entire senior year. So I am a teen mother. I still graduated. I was actually a part of a really awesome program at Everett that was at Hill. So at Hill, back in the day when there was better funding, there was actually a program for young mothers, mothers that
Mhm.
were still in middle or high school. So I went through that program, and it really helped me a lot. It helped me graduate. It gave you a lot of different skills surrounding, parenthood and stuff like that. And I ended up utilizing that program. I feel like, at least, it really helped me to finish out that school year strong. Back then, it wasn't as widely, I guess, accepted, if you will, to be a teen mother. So,
Yeah.
back then, I'm pregnant, still going to school. So my son actually came to my graduation. So, and it's actually kind of cool. I have a picture of him. I'm carrying him and I'm in my cap and gown. And we have that same picture of him in his cap and gown, which is also red, along with me. So that's kind of a cool picture, We grew up together, me, him, and Mike.
It's beautiful. It's I've got a equivalent story. My mother in 1966 was pregnant for me, and she went to Everett too. But they forced her out, and she had to go to some women's alternative school, um, and kind of to hide her, over here.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a very similar stories to what you just told. Um, and my dad he was at Everett as well, but he a couple
Gotcha.
years younger than her. And my grandma went to Eastern. So
Nice.
I have,
Okay.
so the reason I'm saying that though is because we got Trini over here saying Vikings, and we got
Yes.
Farhan saying Quakers.
I mean,
So,
freshman year I was a Quaker, so it's fine.
and
And
I
my
was a
son
Viking.
graduated. My son graduated from Sexton, so I say go Big Reds too. So
I don't know if I can go that far yet. No, I can go that far. I had tons of friends. Capital City Wrestling Club was started in Sexton,
Yeah, see?
and I got a lot of good friends over there.
Absolutely.
So,
Sure.
you want to get into your project some?
Sure. So as some may know or may all, I'm the co-founder and the director of the Village Lansing, and also the co-host of Merica 20 to Life. So two very, very different endeavors, if you will. But I think they play in line with basically anything and everything in life that I would want to do, of how I would want to make an impact, in my city, in my community, on people, or whatever the case may be, however you want to term it. But a couple big projects I would say for the village. So if you don't know what the village is, the Village Lansing is a nonprofit, and we work in anti-gun violence. So we focus on youth and young adults. One of the biggest things about the Village Lansing that I think is very unique to us is we attack it from every angle. So we do the prevention side of things, which is extremely important. You've got mentorship, you've got young people that just, need a place to be. They need empowerment, they need education, resources, things like that. But we also do interruption and intervention. That's a little different. That's a little trickier. The demographic's a little older. You might have some young adults there. And that is the definition of meeting young people where they are, because that is what we do. And with the village, we are very unapologetic in the fact that we do not practice or believe in abstinence. We believe in education and empowerment. So that's a big part of what we do with, interruption and intervention, because it's about harm reduction, right?
Yep.
So we've got to meet them where they are, and we have to literally stand in the gap with them. It's not always fun, but,
Hey, Sherry Pruitt said, stand in the gap, and I use that all the time. I don't know if she gets credit. I don't know who came up with that, but every time I hear stand in the gap, I'm like, man, Sherry gave that to me too.
And Sherry
I love
and I have
that phrase.
It's literally something that we believe in. And it's and Sherry, she is the program director for one of our programs, Angelo's Gift. So that's that third side of things, of attacking it from every angle, which is the support, because unfortunately, violence still happens. And so then what? How do you support those that have been affected by violence? And that's where Angelo's Gift comes in, to support families in different ways. And what that support looks like, you don't always know. So we're very unique, because a lot of times when you work with nonprofits, there's a very cookie cutter clean list of things. But the type of work that we do, and the people that we're dealing with, again, it's about meeting them where they are. So what they may need, we don't know yet until we establish a little bit of a relationship to know what it is that they need. But one of the things that's a standard is we have a support group that meets once a month, and that is led by Sherry, who has been affected by violence, through her son 7 years ago. And it's families, people that have been affected by violence or other traumatic events, lost someone. They meet, once a month. And then we also partnered with Ingham County Health Department and a local therapist, Coat of Many Colors. And they are primarily therapists of color. They provide trauma-informed therapy to people that have experienced, violence, and that is all free of charge. So, through the village, that's something that we're really proud of to be able to offer. But again, like I said, that multifaceted approach. When we're talking about violence, we've been standing in that gap for a while now. We were born out of violence in 2019, the same way everybody does, where everybody's like, we got to do something. And, my husband, Mike, he is someone that has been there, has done that. And when he wants to affect change and he wanted to do something, everybody gets that feeling, right? But with us together, and I always say that this is why we make such a great team, is we figure out, okay, how do we make this happen? And not just happen right now in this moment, but how do we make this happen long term, to where it's sustainable and we're actually affecting change?
Yeah.
That's kind of how Merica 20 to Life was born also,
I want to comment on a couple things real quick, if you don't mind. What you said right at the end there about making it sustainable and long lasting. I know that, I lost a daughter. I'm in the same club or Sherry and I say we're in the similar club, I guess. And one of the things that people do when that happens is they automatically want to start a nonprofit, or they want to fix the situation, and they want to work because they want to have their child next to them every day while they're doing that work. But sometimes that's overambitious, because you have to mourn, you have to grieve, you have to deal with all of these financial things and all of this weird shit you don't want to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get out there and you start this organization, and then 3 years later you're sick of doing the 5K race or whatever. But the village stepping in as a hub empowers and enables these parents to do exactly that while you keep it sustainable. And I just want to point that out because I think that's a subtlety that you guys do, that as a parent who is still grieving, who will never forget what happened, you guys being there as a safety net, even for that important work, even for my memory, of my daughter or my son, Richard Slick, by the way.
Yeah. Who's very well known. And again, with that situation, it's so traumatic and it's so terrible and it's so horrible. I understand, like, that's the gut instinct, is you want to do something, and that's exactly what Sherry did. And it's so I shouldn't say crazy, because it's not really crazy, because things are predestined. It's fate. It's what was supposed to happen. It was what was always going to happen. But like, she had gotten in contact with Mike, with the village, because she wanted to help. Like, she wanted to be involved in some way. She believed in our mission. She believed in what we were doing. And in conversation, it comes up about that. I started this thing, after Richard passed, and this and that. But it's only me, right? It's only me, and that's difficult, etc. And of course, instantly Mike's like, well, how can we help? What can we do? How can we do this? And that's literally, from that point forward, it was like, this is how we can support and empower. And that was really the village. You have to have, with the nonprofit, you got to have a name, and you've got to have all these things, right? It's got to be a thing, an entity. But it was always intended to be a mindset. That's why the name is so important to say, the Village Lansing, because we always say it takes a village, right? We say it real flippantly, it takes a village. That's really true. It literally takes everything from everyone, as much as you're willing to give, and even more, to really affect change, in our communities. And so it's like the village was always intended to, that's why we opened the resource center. We were coming to them. We tend to meet people where you are. Where are you at? What neighborhood are you at? What side of town are you at? What school are you at? We'll come to you, figure out how we can help. And when the pandemic hit, we lost that. Who knew 2020 was going to be the shit show that it was? We were like never going to get back into the schools for 2 years. But it was kind of like, we've got to do something. We cannot let this die. We have to have that space to be able to continue our work. And that was where the Resource Center was born.
Yeah. When you said shit show, I wrote it down. I was thinking of using it as a hashtag, and then I realized it would make it seem like this is a shit show. But I love saying that all the time. I don't know what song it is, that it's a shit show.
I mean, what else can we call it? Yeah. It was literally that. And like, people probably thought we were crazy to kind of be doing what we were doing in 2020 of trying to do this. But it was like, that was the most important side of things. What do you pivot? You pivot it, and you figure out how you can still help people. That's what the village did.
I always say that connection is the opposite of everything bad, I guess. Bad's the wrong word, but it's the opposite of addiction. It's the opposite of mental illness. It's the opposite of homelessness. And, losing those connections makes people more depressed, or it makes them more violent, or it makes them more likely to use. So very important work to, again, kind of posse up, huddle up, create that hub.
You got it.
So, let's go into Merica 20 to Life a little bit. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So kind of the same mindset. We're in, the middle of the pandemic. Like, we're in like the grip of it. And I always say this to people, because everybody talks about the pandemic and it gets obviously real political, which is fine. I don't shy away from that, obviously. But people forget that everybody's pandemic was different. You know, people like to talk about we're all in the same boat. And there's that meme that's like, nah, we weren't all in the same boat because some of us didn't have a boat. Some of us had a rickety ass raft with no oar, you know, and our boat had holes in it. And so that's so true. And even our pandemic and the way that we quarantined was very, very different for the two of us because I am immunocompromised. I live with lupus, and lupus is an autoimmune disease, meaning the way that you treat lupus is by suppressing your immune system. So COVID was a freaking nightmare, like dumpster fire on wheels rolling down a hill right at us. So it was like, what do we do? And we lock it down. You know, my husband was like, lock it down, all of it, protect you at all costs type thing. So it was like our pandemic was very different because when we talk about quarantine and isolation and stuff like that, we were doing that. And the podcast was something that we had wanted to do. We had talked about it, and it came up just as like this idea over breakfast. You know, one day we're talking and I'm like, you know, Mike and I are talking and we're like, we should really do this because we have some really great conversations. We always have. That's what we do. We talk to each other. That's my best friend. And we're just talking about something and we're thinking like, this would be so dope to be able to bring people in on or have the conversation with others, et cetera, yada, yada. And then we were talking about how people are always griping and complaining about there's never anything to do with Lansing. Lansing sucks. Lansing's so lame, blah, blah, blah. And we like love our city. We find stuff to do. We find these pockets of great, awesome things to do. We should showcase that and talk about that, right? So it's like this fun, cool thing. And of course, life gets in the way. You get busy. It just didn't happen. We had like the equipment, all this and that. What do you do when the world shuts down? You start a podcast, right? So that's what we did. We started the podcast right on our kitchen table. And that's kind of how we started. It was talking about, you know, just current events, us, our people, things like that. And as with all things, it evolved, you know, and it evolved into something that I'm so proud of today because of the impact that it's had, you know, on us, but also other people. And that's something that I'm really proud of with Merica.
Yeah. I mean, something happens on Merica, it shows up in the crowd at city council. Something happens at Merica, it's a controversy in the newspaper. You know, something happens on Merica, it's probably a lawsuit. If it's not, you know, happened yet, it's going to probably happen soon. Because you guys are telling important stories that hashtag Love Lansing doesn't always want to show.
You know, this is the thing. We want to take that back because we do love Lansing. We love the hell out of our city. We love it so much that we are willing to kind of take that brunt of like what it means to love Lansing. That's like a huge misconception for me of like, you can only love Lansing if we sweep everything under the rug and we stick our head in the sand and we act like these things aren't going on. That's not authentic love. And I don't do anything but love authentically. If I love you, then I'm love you with everything that I have, and I'm going to be loyal to you, and I'm going to be honest with you. So city,
That's right.
Lansing, we're being honest with you. And so when you have things coming out that the media won't, the mainstream media won't cover, they won't talk about it, or they cover it in a way that's very one-sided, or it's in a way that is intended for you to think in a certain way, that's not for the people. That was what we wanted to change. You got to start changing narratives. You have to start disrupting that status quo. You have to start giving a voice to the voiceless, to the people who don't have a platform, the people that have been screaming silently from the sidelines, like, why won't anybody listen? You know, that's what Merica really started to turn into. And it was like never intentional. It was just organic. And what that tells me is that it was long overdue and it was needed. And so anytime I'm sitting here like, I know there's a whole lot of people that don't like my ass, I'm just like, but you know what? There's a whole lot of people that do and are grateful and love that and are grateful for what we do. That's what I have to remind myself, because guess what? We wouldn't have the platform we have if it wasn't necessary, if it wasn't needed, and people didn't need that, you know? So.
You're 100% right. The crowd helps you make the scaffolding for the platform. And if the crowd's not there and the crowd doesn't want it, they're not going to show up to help you build that. So you'd be talking to like 3 people, right?
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
but you guys are talking to a lot of people and you're influencing a lot of things. Hey, I'm gonna give a little encouragement. Ron DeLeon, we all love Ron. Keep up the outstanding work, supporting you 100%, fam.
Back at you, Ron.
And then Trini, what was she, the Viking or the Quaker? I can't remember. She was a Viking. All right. The podcast built community when no one could physically be together. And thank you.
I agree. Yes. And it's a dope community.
It is a dope community. I can't always be on there. I try as best I can, but I'm playing it a lot. I might not always see it because sometimes it's Shannon or sometimes it's one of these random computers, but I ought to play it every night. When's the podcast air?
I was going to get to that. So podcast is Mondays, Wednesdays at 8:00. Sometimes we do special shows. So just kind of watch out for our Facebook page, kind of just to know what's going on. But Mondays, Wednesdays, 8 p.m. That's when we go live. We do, breaking news and information and try to follow up on some of the things that we talk about on our website. Our website is www.merica20tolife.com. And if you go there, you can also catch some of our older shows. That was something that was really surprising because people go back and watch some of the older shows and they're like, wow, I'm so glad I went back and watched that. So you didn't see some of the older shows because we were out here, back when the militias were out, at the Capitol. We covered a lot of that stuff and had interviews. And we were just, again, at the top of a lot of breaking news that some people saw it break, but they didn't know that where it actually came from. And, it's a lot, but I think it's very relevant to everything going on as far as what we, cover on the podcast and on the website.
I definitely want to go out and watch some more of what you guys have done. I mistyped it at first. That's why I'm looking away because I don't want to screw this up because I don't know how those people smell of Merica.
So Merica, this is the best way to remember it because the people get really confused because they don't know. And to this day, when people find out, they're like, oh, so Merica obviously is a play on like Merica. Just that just fits with us, right? But it's also Mike and Erica, like the whole Bennifer thing. So that Merica, and then the 20 to life is we've been together. It'll be 23 years this year. So 20 to life. Yeah.
So you got married in 98?
We didn't get married in 98.
Oh, or you've been together.
But we've been together.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. I always like to say that we've been rocking since the 90s. Because we have.
Shannon and I, August 8th was our 23rd wedding anniversary.
Wait, 23rd?
Uh-huh.
Wow. So, and we consider our 23rd, that's our anniversary because the wedding, weddings are important, marriage is important, but for us, our relationship was our relationship. We did everything backwards, obviously. I mean, we had our son first, but 23 years, it'll be 23 years for us this year too. It's pretty cool.
See, we got a ton of stuff in common.
I know.
So I got a ton of questions about the stories you told me about the village and Merica and all of that. So the first thing is, because I love this post, and if you don't want to talk about it or Michael doesn't want you to talk about it, we can stop.
No,
but
matter.
The other day I was driving down Cedar. I saw your guys' place. It was Michael's birthday. And I was like, I hope Michael's having a great birthday. And not maybe 10 minutes later, he posts about something that happened at one of these great things to do in Lansing, which it is a great thing to do.
It's still a great thing to do. I mean, it's kind of funny. So yeah, I'll tell kind of like the shortened version of it all, but we decided it's his birthday, right? Let's go do something fun that brings us joy. Kayaking brings us joy. We love to kayak. So we're like, let's go kayak on the Grand River because that's our river. I know. But whatever. So we dump in, at a spot and we have this whole plan. Now, we didn't have a whole plan because normally I try to prepare a little bit better And I have my little things I do to go kayaking, where I make sure I have my crossbody bag that's kind of plasticky and it has my stuff in it, blah, blah, blah. But whatever. It's Mike's birthday. We're just going to jump on the lake and go. So we do. It was swollen. It was a lot higher than it normally is because we got all that rain, right? Current was a little fast, but that's cool. We're pretty experienced, kayakers. It didn't really give us too many issues per se, but we actually ran into a blockage that was pretty big. And when I say we came in hot, like we came in hot, and there was like no way to really avoid it, but we had a plan. We're like, we'll get to the shore, drag them out, walk around it, which we've done before, and we're kind of trying to talk this through quick. So I hit and it's a tree. I hit the tree, but I hit it going sideways. No big deal though. That's not the biggest deal. You just got to kind of takes a minute, get yourself to shore. Mike comes in, kind of bumps into me, hits it. But that's when I realized, A, how swollen the river was, and B, how fast that current was coming. And I looked down. Mike said all he heard was me say, I think, I just, dropped the F-bomb, because I look and I see that my kayak is filling up with water. And it's filling up fast. And when I say fast, like it almost immediately started trying to pull me under. So I'm like, here we go. And Mike's like, you were screaming. Here's the thing. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't really scared of like drowning. We wear life jackets on like religiously. We never go anywhere without them on water. But I can swim very well and I can tread water very well. But it was the Grand River, y'all. And it was kind of stinky. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I went under. There was no avoiding that. I go under. So of course Mike's like freaking out because I'm going under. Like he's fine. He's always going to be fine. But he's like worried about me, which starts making him, so he kind of dumps his kayak so that he can kind of be ready if I, need anything or whatever. But my kayak is it's filling with water. It's sinking. So both our kayaks go. We're in the water. We finally get out of the water. We're like, what do we do? Et cetera, et cetera. All of our stuff was in there. All of our stuff, like sunglasses, phones, my wallet. Don't ask me why. I'm just weird like that. I take my wallet with me everywhere. I feel like I need to have my ID on me at all times. So I had everything in there, my speaker, just all types of stuff. And I'm just like, everything's lost. Everything's gone. But long story short, we ended up getting rescued somewhat. And we got the kayaks out. We're both just kind of resigned to like, glad at least we got our kayaks. We're fine. Like crappy birthday. And pretty much almost everything was still in the damn kayaks. How? I have not a clue, because my kayak literally sunk upside down and was like lodged into the bottom. All you could see was the corner sticking out. The only thing I can think of was like an air pocket or something, but the majority of our stuff like was out. Mike did lose his phone, which we got replaced instantly like that. But for the most part, like we got everything back. And I was like praying, like, thank you for keeping us safe, but it would be nice to like get our stuff back. So this is, this day isn't the worst, but yeah, that happened.
I don't know if people think that like I'm trying to be mean and say, oh, that's funny, that happened to you. Or what I love about this story is
hilarious.
Like quite the opposite of it is that, you want your birthdays to be memorable. You want them to be remarkable. So and when it's a cake and so many, this is a story for the rest of your lives. And it is who you guys are.
It's so funny that you say that, because like I was mortified. I felt so bad for Mike. I'm like, babe, I'm so sorry this happened on your birthday, whatever. And he is just like, so it's fine. It's no big deal. At least he must have said at least like 8 times. And I'm like, I don't understand, because sometimes I'm like, F this, like this is some book, and he's just like, well, at least we got the kayaks, at least, blah, blah, blah. Like it's fine. I'll remember this birthday for the rest of my life, and just like so positive about it. And I'm just like, okay, but I just felt so bad, because I'm like, this was not supposed to happen on your birthday. But, we ended up eating pizza in bed that night after a nice good shower and washing our clothes in like hot water and vinegar and bleach. But I did get water up my nose, so I was kind of scared of like an amoeba or something growing back there, but we were all good. So, all is well that ends well.
Back in the 70s, I swam in the Grand River, like all over the place, even down by BWL and that. We used to fish down there. And, I think we just didn't know it was polluted. So I didn't really think about it when I was swimming in there.
Well, it probably wasn't as bad back then as it is now.
Yeah, but it's kind of gross.
No,
But it's a
gross.
river, and hopefully we can clean it up somehow. I have no idea how. But
yeah, because I like to kayak on it, and I wish it didn't have blockages and smell like poo in certain areas.
yeah. Oh yeah, Michael's saying still got unfinished business with that river. A soldier got left behind.
Yes.
I'll talk about whatever y'all want to talk about.
Yes, a soldier did get left behind that we'll have to get some professional help in, but
I wonder. Well, anyways, we'll get on to something else. What about? So first of all, how can somebody donate to the village, and how can they support Merica 20 to Life?
Sure. So we got some really awesome and cool ways to support both. So with the village, you can visit thevillagelansing.org. That's our website. You can learn all there is to know about the village, what we do, our programs. You can donate, support there. If you buy a village t-shirt, you're supporting us in a whole bunch of different ways, because you're obviously, the proceeds go back to the village, but also you're, showing that you're a part of the village, which means that people will ask you about the village, and hopefully you know enough to talk about us. We use a lot of word of mouth and referrals for the village. So you can support in that way, donate. We take hygiene.
Can I say something about the t-shirts?
Yeah.
They're really soft. They're cool looking. I wear them about once a week on the show. And I love your t-shirt. It's really comfortable shirt.
I'm really glad that you shouted that out, because that was really important. I'm like the 100% cotton gal, because I would just be like, oh, that looks good. And Mike's like, no, those are the worst. They shrink. They do this. We got to do the blend, and we get the most compliments about these shirts because they're so soft and they fit so well and they age well. So yes, the village shirts and Merica shirts are both very comfy, very soft, and you can wash them and they're not going to get all terrible. But with the Village Up, you can donate website. We also take, again, I don't want a pledge situation like y'all got overrun with clothes, because we we don't do that. But yeah, hygiene supplies type things, just because those are things that we can give to younger people, as far as, toothpaste, body spray, stuff like that teenagers might be able to just grab and go. We're already a part of, the diaper bank, so people can get diapers from us. We do Helping Women Period. They can get, period supplies from us in that way. So a couple of different ways. Our programs, you can support programs directly. We've got an Amazon list for our chess club. I know right now we need a couple of, just 2 to 3 more chessboards they're travel chessboards that you can kind of take with you. So there's a list on there, Amazon list in general.
Would you take the equivalent from somebody local? So if they had a travel chess? All right.
Absolutely.
Everyone get together and get all that on the list from local stuff and not from Amazon.
Yeah, I know.
It's
so
okay.
Funny
it's okay.
Melina got the same thing. Melina from the Women's Center had to put her little asterisk. But with nonprofits, it's sometimes the easiest way. You can kind of get things. But yeah, if you know people that are willing to kind of their services support in some way, definitely push that to the village. As far as Merica is really fun in the way that you can support. Obviously, you can support by watching the show. Watch us, like our page, follow us. I've actually been working on our Patreon that will drop. And I'm really excited about the Patreon, because I didn't really know what it was, but people kept telling us y'all got to get a Patreon. I would totally subscribe to that. But it's a really cool platform where it's a little bit more intimate. So you have, special things, just special different things and swag and stuff like that you can give to people. And it's inexpensive. It's cheap, but that helps to support, independent media. It ain't cheap. There's a lot of costs associated with anything you're going to do when it comes to media. So Patreon is one thing. Obviously, we have our T-shirts, which are awesome. Like the design is pretty cool, and that obviously supports us. And then a big one that we have, and right now it's actually pretty cool because we have our advertising packages out right now. So our ad packages are cool because this is like the promotional time right now, because we have a limited number of them that we're going to sell for this very first inaugural package. So the best way I can say it is they're really cheap right now because it's that, inaugural thing. And we've got, a few people that are so excited because if you watch our show, our advertisement is really, it's going to be different. You're never just going to get like, oh, a plug on the website and you get this or that, because you get our conversation.
Yeah.
You might get us trying your product or coming to your spot, coming to your place. We're going to think of a really cool way to boost your signal, to promote your product, to promote your spot in a way that Merica does. So I'm really excited about that. That's very new. You can find information on that on our website as well. So that's a big way, because our Merica fam, it's like they do support us. Like they'll support us in ways by buying T-shirts, buying our merch. We do coffee mugs. A lot of people bought coffee mugs, or just cash apping because they're like, hey, I work in this business, so those are some different ways. But ad packages are really cool because it focuses on like companies and businesses who have like, a budget for that. And if you've got a budget for that, I see ads going in places that I'm like, does anybody ever even see that? And I always think it's so funny because we don't even think sometimes about the money aspect. Like they could have paid us to do that. It's more or less, man, we would have done this to advertise that. You know how fun that would have been? So like, that's a really good, cool way to support Merica.
I want to ask you about some shows, but not specific shows because I don't know them. You'll make the specific show. What's your favorite show?
The most favorite show.
And if you ask me that, I won't answer because I can't be picking out individuals.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, not all of our shows have guests, but honestly, we've done so many shows. I don't know if I would say that I have a necessarily favorite show. One, couple things I'm really proud of. It's not necessarily favorite, but we just did
That's a better question, actually. What's some shows you're proud of?
Yeah, so the candidate series that we just did, I'm really, really proud of because the feedback that we got from it was exactly what our intentions were. So we did a whole candidate series. We invited every single mayoral and city council candidate to come on and have a conversation with us. So it's not that like canned, pre-planned, very like dry, you get 30 seconds to answer this pre-canned question and we're not going to, it's just all going to be very, on Zoom. So we really wanted to give people a glimpse, just a glimpse into these people and who they really are, what they're about, what they believe, what they don't believe, what they stand for, what their platform is, and just have a candid, authentic, good conversation with them. And not everybody bit. And I am, I'm like, why would you not want to?
I was going to ask, did Andy come on?
Hell no. Andy Shore is, there's a reason why I nicknamed him Propagandy. Propagandy, that is what he is good at. So when we talk about authentic conversations and being transparent and being honest, I don't think that's in his wheelhouse. So of course he wasn't going to come on our show. But there was a couple that didn't come on that I was pretty surprised at. That this is the thing. This is my thought process on that. Why wouldn't you want that? Why wouldn't you want to have a conversation directly with the people? Because our show is so interactive. Like when Trini was saying that, like it created a community. Mm-hmm. That's what it does. People are in there asking great questions, giving great feedback. Like it's a really awesome experience. So I was really proud of that series because that's exactly what it intended to be. People were like, I'm so glad y'all did that. I would have never known that about so-and-so. And then the candidates were like, that was amazing. I am so glad. Are we doing this again? Like after the primary, stuff like that. So I was really, really proud of that series and kind of what it did for the community, because voter education isn't always going to be what you see mainstream. In fact, I would say that is not voter education. That is typically a really good, well-run campaign and some propaganda in there when that's all you're seeing. You got to kind of look around for that real stuff of who this person really is, not what their campaign manager or their PR person is telling them to do, say, take pictures with, etc. So I was really proud of that. We also did, over the pandemic, we did the city does, the address, and so we did kind of a similar thing. We did the similar forum, but centered around the people. And you were obviously a guest on that.
I was going to say that was a great show. I know that.
Yeah. And
no, I'm just playing. I'm playing.
Was it not though? It was
a great show.
Conversation.
Yes.
And you could even speak a little bit more to that on why it was such an important thing to do, because when we talk about the state of the city, because that's what, it was the state of the city, we did the state of the people, because we have seen that, there is somewhat of a distinction. If we keep talking about state of the city, does that include everybody? And we're starting to see that often it doesn't. And so we had a whole panel of people that were there to kind of talk about how they see it, what they see the issues are, what they see the problems are, what strategies and solutions that they have, to kind of propel us and work us forward. And we had community people, we had people in organizations. So that's one, the state of the people, I'm really proud of as well.
You want me to say something about that? Because
yes, please.
I mean, to me, I loved having that platform and being able to talk about, if we're so great and we're so prosperous and we're so doing this, then why are 27% of us still under the poverty line? Why are 55% still under the Alice threshold? Why aren't we doing anything innovative? Why do you victim blame? I get 2 bullets through my front door, and I'm getting phone calls from them saying, what are you doing to get shot? I'm having Black, brown, and poor people in here for the biggest entrepreneurial event of the month. Drayvon Pruitt, we talked about his mom a second ago, is having this big showcase and has all these things happening. It's mistaken identity. We solved it in 3 days, and he's calling me victim blaming me. That's what I get. I get kids running back here with tears in their eyes, not because somebody hurt their feelings, but because somebody just violated a UN war crime and tear gassed our own kids, right?
Exactly.
I get that.
And you're hearing that firsthand though too, Jerry. Like, people have to realize that these are experiences that you went through, and this actually happened. Where were you going to ever be able to have a platform to talk about those things had we not done the state of the people?
Well, I go nuts on Facebook Live sometimes, but I usually have to delete them.
We all think about that, like, oh, did I go too far? But I think it's really important. I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I think that there's this huge misconception in our city that when you call someone out or you talk about what's going on or whatever the case may be, we don't even know that we're repeating and we're regurgitating these words and these trigger words that have been fed to us, typically by the opposition, typically by those in power. I talk a lot about imbalance of power that are a part of a very systemic, inequitable, racist system. Those trigger words that we hear when we start talking about the things that you and I are talking about right now, they start saying, you're complaining. That's so divisive. Why do we focus on the negative? We need unity. And I'm just a person that, if you know me, you know me. And there are some people in this city that know me a long time. I have a very small, tight-knit circle. But that tight-knit circle knows me, and I think knows my heart very well, and even my broader circle. I am not a divisive person. But if you want to calling out bullshit, calling people out that are doing harm, people that are upholding white supremacy, that can look a whole lot of different ways. People that are keeping people poor, people that are keeping people marginalized, upholding anything that is keeping people marginalized, all of those different things, right? If you want to say, I just complain a lot, I'm always upset and I'm divisive and I don't want unity, I don't love Lansing, The best I can do and all I have for you is I'll be that. I'll be that then. I'm totally okay with that because you have a misconception of what that actually means. Because unity does not mean that we all get along. Unity means that we are unified in a common front, a common goal, a common mindset, and a common belief. So if you think unity means standing with an oppressor, I I don't think I want to be united with you. I don't want to be a united front with you. I'm gonna be looking at you like, don't stand next to me. Go stand over there. I don't even want to be seen with you. So that's my thought process on that.
So I'm gonna go back a little bit. First of all, I own the domain Lansing.love, and I've been wanting to do something with it for a long time, and it's an affront to Love Lansing because I feel like Love Lansing is forced. I feel like Love Lansing is, yeah, we can all love Lansing, but how come we don't talk about? Actually, we're gonna get into this in the question down the line. But when we talk about Lansing sadness, why don't we talk about Lansing hurt? Why don't we talk about Lansing grieving? We got to just flower it all up like the silk on a pig or something. I don't even know. I don't know where that phrase comes from. But, you know, why we got to force this? Because there's people like myself, like you, like Michael, like a lot of us that authentically love Lansing. We will walk down Baker at any time in the night, and these are our people. And that's one thing. We should team up. We should get a big team of all of us that tell all the stories and all the good stuff and all the bad stuff, and really have Lansing love. My wife doesn't let me get away with anything that I'm doing. She tells me the truth about that. And when I say, man, that's kind of mean, she's like, no, it's not mean. It's kind, and it's me loving you. And that's what you guys do for us. You tell us those things we don't want to hear that then make us say, shit, we could be better. Let's go be better.
That's it. I love that you put it that way, because if I don't exist in a reality where I lie to the people I love, my family, my best friends, my kids, my husband, if I'm not lying to them, I'm damn well not going to lie to strangers and lie to voters and lie to people in my community. So I won't ever understand, kind of that concept of we can only focus on, the good that is happening, because here's the thing. That in itself is inequitable. If you only focus on only the good, that means that you are okay with the fact that it's not good for all, and it's not good for, it's really, really, really bad for some. For me, we can't fix everything. We can't fix it all, right? I understand that. But if you're not even willing to admit that there's problems, that's very selfish. That means that you only care about the facade of Love Lansing. I love Lansing enough to say we can be better, we will be better, and there are people that don't want to admit that because it is better for them. But what they had to do, say, give up, look past, many of us aren't willing to do so. That doesn't make us love Lansing any less. In fact, I think it makes us love Lansing even more, because that means we love an inclusive, not just a diverse. Diversity is a picture. That's it. You can attain diversity simply by snapping a picture. That's diversity. Equity, that is much, much harder to achieve, and it takes a lot of work, and it's ugly, it's dirty, it's not fun, doesn't feel great. You make a whole lot of enemies along the way, but that's okay. That's okay.
You got me so pumped up with what you just said at the end. I forgot what I was going to say. I know what it is now. Sorry. But we're going to come back to that more too. This web of racism, it's got like this mother spider in the middle, and it sends out these signals through. Yeah. I mean, maybe Andy Shore, but probably a lot more, probably a lot of
Sure,
others.
absolutely.
And as it tingles through this web, it kind of changes a little bit, like a telephone game. And pretty soon they're gaslighting you over something that's not. Man, it's probably racism, but man, the city's not going to fund you if you keep bullshitting like this. And these people aren't going to like giving you a grant. And there's all these passive aggressive little threats against you that are coming all the time. All I had to say was fuck these people, man, for doing this shit to all of us.
Exactly. That's it. And I don't feel bad about saying that because I agree with you 100% because that is exactly what they do. And I think we have to be really honest and intentional when we talk about that, like, very systemically racist, system that we're talking about. It's very easy to talk about the systemic nature of racism, because we know that it's a global problem. It's a national problem. It's a statewide problem. But that does not absolve us. And even in our own city, that's a default to say, well, that's a systemic problem. That's happening everywhere. Okay, well, let's talk about the actual things that are happening right here in my city, the city that I was born and raised in, that I love, that I give, my whole family gives everything that they have and more to. And I mean that we give everything that we have and more to our city, to our community, to our people, because we love it that much. So when we're watching the house burning down around us, I can't help but sit here and watch the person holding the blowtorch and say this shit has to stop and start peeling back those layers, because the lack of accountability, it's always going to come from people that are benefiting from that system. So they don't care, who it might be harming, who it might be hurting. You talked a little bit about like the city, not giving grants or supporting, et cetera, et cetera. I can be very honest and transparent that I understand that what I do in my free time absolutely affects everything else that I do. And I'm very understanding of that. And I've had people say, if you would just, if y'all would just, if you would just, you can't be calling out the mayor at city council like that. If only people would spend that same energy that it took to have a conversation with me in the same breath that they're agreeing with me and telling me I'm right, if they would spend that same energy telling him and them, y'all ain't right for the retaliatory way that when people speak up for themselves, that you operate, what you're doing is wrong. That's that whole nature of shoot the messenger. Why are we constantly shooting the messenger? And it's multifaceted because you got your people that are benefiting from the system. That's easy. Like, oh, I can see exactly why you won't speak out. I can see that. But then you have people that are just comfortable. There are people that are comfortable. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to lose because we always talk about benefiting, right? When you think benefit, you think like money or you think, tangible things, right? That's not it. Sometimes it's just friends, it's relationships, it's status, it's being invited to the party. All things I could not care any less about. I couldn't care less any about that. And if you are going to advocate, you're going to truly advocate. And we talked about this as far as being an ally to a movement or an accomplice to a movement. If you are an accomplice, you're standing in the gap with people that you care about on issues that you care about and trying to actually affect change. You don't get to care about any of those things. And that's kind of where I'm at. And I have to be okay with that. I have to be okay with people not liking some of the things that we say or that we do or people that we're calling out. But I will never subscribe to the mindset or the idea that it is wrong to try to get someone to understand the error of their ways, to understand how this is harmful, et cetera, and they continue to operate. And we still continue to remain quiet about that. And we don't say anything. We don't disrupt that. You don't do that. I can't subscribe to that because systemic racism, white supremacy, elitism depends. I mean, it literally depends on that right there. So I'm good with that. I'm not ever gonna think
And
like that.
and you know what democracy depends on? People like you questioning the authority, pointing things out, showing the better way, showing the wrongdoing, showing the problems, and somewhere it all flipped, and you're a patriot if you're this way. Well, not somewhere. It didn't flip. It's been like this. It needs to flip.
Yeah.
It's built into our system. Oppress.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say we're a democracy. Let's say there's an American dream. Let's say that there's liberty and justice for all. But what do we see? We see the exact opposite, and a bunch of people waving flags saying, "Yeah, you don't know," and it's all about racism.
It is. It always boils down to that, because we always have to think about what it is. What's our reference point, right? You ever heard of, confirmation bias? Like, what's our reference point? Our reference point to what status quo was created by the oppressors, the systems in power. So, excuse me if I'm like, no, I don't believe in that. No, that shit ain't right. No, I'm going to flip that table over, kick that chair because that doesn't seem right. And people are like, no, no, no. You're the only person. I remember I had a conversation with somebody at work and they were like, you're the only person that's ever even mentioned this. Like, nobody has ever. And it was said in a way that was supposed to like shut shit down. And I laughed and I'm like, so because you've had 10 years worth of people that were willing to live in this dysfunctional process, I'm wrong for being like, nah, I'm not doing that no more. What do I got to do to change this? Like, that is something that people always try to say. If you're the only one that's saying something, and it's like, do you understand what it takes for someone to say, you know what? I know that this has been this way for a long time. I know that this is kind of cemented in stone. I know a lot of people have been following this for a long time, but I don't think it's right. I think we need to change it. That takes a lot of courage. It takes time. It takes resources. It takes support. It takes a lot of things to fall into place. And so we cannot have a litmus test that if you're the first person to say this,
Right.
do this, try this, that you're wrong. We got to stop thinking that. Have you ever heard of, some people might have, it's called I think like the dancing man on YouTube. It's this video on YouTube that's really old. And it's this dancing man. It's this guy at this big festival, right? And it's this one dude. And the music's going, and there's so many people sitting around, and somebody wrote a paper on this, and they analyzed this, and they basically put it in tune with human behavior. And this always gives me great like confidence that like what we're doing is right. Because he goes down, this one guy, and he just starts dancing, having the time of his life. And before you know it, after you can literally, they pinpoint, you can see people like, looking at each other, looking at him, and then one person comes and joins him. And then they start showing it in phases. Then 5 more. By the end of the video, the entire festival, 1,000 people, dancing their asses off, having the best time of their life with him. And it's a study in human behavior. There always has to be that one spark to light that fire. So all I say to people is, if you don't believe in that spark, that's fine. But don't try to pour water on my shit. Like, you just go stay over there doing nothing like you've been doing. That's all I ask,
I'm trying to figure out a way to loop this back to the village real quick, because there's all these things that are also, when you have the village, now you got something to risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you got nothing, you can go all in with the revolution, right? Mm-hmm. But if you got the village, you got your family, you've got these things, right? Now they're things that people can use against you.
Mm-hmm.
The question I'm trying to ask is, how does Merica 20 to Life strengthen the mission of the village? And I think I know the answer. This ain't no trick question or anything like that.
No.
How's that? Yeah.
So a couple things with the village. The village, again, was born out of violence. Our demographic is BIPOC families, BIPOC youth, young adults, right? Specifically, we're on the south side, the heart of the South. We're on MLK and Holmes there, facing MLK. So much of the families and the people that we serve are Black and brown, marginalized, poor. Okay. So those are our people. That's our community. That is who we're trying to serve. And so with everything that we do, it is always very mission focused. The trickle down, the trickle up, whatever, that always benefits the village. And so I get that question where that conversation comes up, like with Merica, it is because I don't see it as a risk. The people that decide not to support the village Lansing in whatever way it means, meaning they don't take our services, they don't donate, they don't volunteer, etc. The way that Mike would tell it, and we've had good conversations about it because he has to reel me back in because they were never supposed to be in relationship with us on that end. And if they're supposed to be, they will. Because everything that we do at its core at the Village Lansing, absolutely 110% benefits from all of the blood, sweat, and tears that Merica does out here. So every enemy we make, every bridge that we burn with people, those people were never going to benefit the Village Lansing. They were never going to benefit the south side of Lansing. They were never going to benefit our people. So therefore, we're making that ultimate sacrifice to benefit the Village Lansing is how I look at it.
Super badass. Super badass. What do you do every damn day to push this mission forward?
Man, anything and everything I possibly, absolutely can. I mean, literally, from sun up to sundown, Mike and I live, breathe, eat. All things village, all things Merica. That is our life. That is what we do. It doesn't matter how we feel. It doesn't matter what's going on. We try to be here to serve. So we do literally, when I say anything, I can't even explain that. I mean anything. You would never even understand or believe the types of phone calls that we get, messages, texts, emails. And if we can't do it ourselves, we funnel that to somebody, you know, that we can. We've built a good network to do that. So pretty much anything that we can.
Anything and everything for one person, 1 hour at a time, or 1 minute at a time.
Do what you can with what you have, however you can. That's my mindset. Like, that's it.
And I know from experience, if you don't mind me saying, that, you know, it's trauma. You absorb trauma too. Mm-hmm. When the young man, the 24-year-old young man, is pronounced dead after the shooting, and he survived a few days, and you get that little flash on your phone, it punches you in the chest. Mm-hmm. Or you read the shooting, it's, you know, from this, and this, and you absorb it.
We do. And there's no way not to. That's when we talk about standing in the gap. You know, it's easy to criticize people that are doing the work because they're not doing it in the way that you would, or that you think they should, or whatever the case may be. But the point is anybody that's doing the type of work that we do, there's no manual, there's no handbook. So we forget that these are people. So when our city is putting all their propaganda out, there are people and families that are behind all of this. And very, very often we are in close touch with those people and those families. And, you know, I have to watch my husband, somebody that I love with everything, that gives literally everything, not figuratively, literally. I've said this half jokingly on the show where I'm like, y'all gonna quit coming for my husband. But I mean that because I've said this before. He's an easy target. And that's just honest. Black men are easy targets. They're easy targets in society. They're easy targets just in general, to pick apart, to unravel and to peel and try to find out those flaws. And for me, that's tough because I do what I do, right? I work, we support each other so much, but I watch that behind the scenes work. I watch all the things that happen, all the efforts, all of the blood, sweat, and tears that are put out. And so that's really, really, really difficult sometimes for me that would be difficult for anybody to watch someone that they care about give so much. So when you talk about absorbing trauma, the best I can do is say that that's an understatement. It's absorb, it's live, it's help other people through when you don't have it in you to do. So yeah, it's a lot. I try to ask nicely to give grace and patience to all of those that are absorbing trauma like that. But I only ask nicely for so long. And then it becomes, it's a problem. And I try to explain that to people. Like when you absorb trauma, understand that people that are absorbing this trauma, just because they might be loud about it and they're, et cetera, they are still being put through this type of trauma every single day. Just remember that, I'm glad that you brought that up.
I think you guys are amazing, and I have to say, quit coming at her husband, quit coming at Michael, because we're going to get sick of it.
Exactly.
He's playing in a space, they're playing in a space you all don't understand. You expect people to act a certain way. That's why you're always trying to send them to life skills class and shit like that. And it ain't going to happen the way you want to see it happen.
Nah, that ain't it.
Kirkpatrick didn't protest the way you all asked. He protested in a way that was the right way to do. And
you're absolutely right. And what's funny is people that talk to me will tell me, like, it's so funny that people come at Mike the way that they do, whatever. And they're like, but you be going just as hard. And I'm like, oh, I know. Trust me, I know. I get it. And that's why I always say, like, some people, people will kind of choose an easy target, and they don't even know that that's by design. What do you do to halt the movement and stop a movement? You discredit the people at the heart of the movement, right? But what they don't know is we have a saying in our family, they pick the right ones. Because with us and our family, you pick the right ones. Because if I don't have time today or capacity today, somebody in my family does, and we'll prop each other up and support each other through, all of that to continue to do this shit every damn day.
Yeah, your maiden name's Rodriguez, right?
Yep, Rodriguez.
But not. Yes. I think, did I ask you about Helen and Tanya before?
You might have, and nope, I'm no relation to them. I'm actually not related to many in Lansing.
They're super good friends of mine. I don't know why that just popped into my head.
I feel like all the Rodriguezes are awesome, but I don't know.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah,
I'm sure they are. So we daisy chain these shows together, and yesterday on the show I had Scott Harris, who owns the Everybody Reads, bookstore up there by the Avenue, and his question for you is, what do you want your legacy to be, or what do you want to be remembered for?
I would say I always want to be remembered as not only being on the right side of things, because right can be, I guess, subjective, but as somebody that people could count on. When I think of how people think of me, it's not that I want them to think about what I did or what I said or whatever the case may be, but I want to have a place where they feel something when they think about me, because I have people like that. It's because they are somebody that I know I can count on. And it might not be because I can count on them because they're a personal friend, but I can count on them for something or anything that says a lot about a person. And that's important to me. I want people to feel like they can count on me, and I want to leave a legacy that says I gave and did everything that I could to make a change that I wanted to see. Because we talk about be the change you want to see. That's really easy to say. I want people to really, truly understand and believe that I am trying to be the change that I want to see.
I love that so much. I want to tell you, you can be a legend right now, right? You can have a legacy right now. So right now, when I think of you, when I think of Michael, this Ralph Waldo Emerson quote pops in my head. He was probably a horrible person and all that, but the quote is still going to stand. The reasonable man tries to change himself to the world. The unreasonable man tries to change the world to him. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. And I think you're leading us to the future. You're progressing us. You are pulling us forward in a way we need to be pulled. And I know it makes a lot of people uncomfortable because it seems unreasonable to them, but wait and see where we're at. Michael says that
Exactly.
from time to time. Wait and see when this all starts to fade away or starts to calm down.
It'll pay
Sorry,
off.
sorry, Michael. They'll never see your work. They'll never see our work. They'll take credit some other way, but it's okay because we got to our mission and F them anyways.
Exactly. And I see it, I see it. I see it around. I see the things, the way, changing the way, people move and in government, just having that impact. That's it. If you can start seeing some of the impact, then it is very satisfying. But that's why I always say, like, if you if you don't support, you don't agree, that's cool, but don't be a barrier. That's my thing. Like, I am the queen of minding my own damn business. Some people just mind your own damn business. If you don't agree with how things are going or whatever the case may be, take a seat there. You weren't doing nothing before. Why is the something that you decide to do now is trying to discredit me?
Right.
Like, where make that make sense?
So tomorrow on the show, I got Oprah, Ward 2, City Council,
Oprah. Yeah.
candidate we
Awesome.
all back, right? Um,
Hmm.
what's the
Absolutely.
what's the question you would like me to pass on to Oprah?
Question. Okay. So you asked me what my legacy would be. I would ask Oprah what she would like her imprint in this world to be.
I'm gonna love actually asking her that because she's running for city council. It seems like an important question.
That is
She
an
pro-
important question.
um, Let me ask you something. Instead of repeating your question back to you like I usually do, I was really fascinated when I was reading the first question and thinking legacy, and then you said imprint, and I'm thinking, is that the same? And then I'm like, no, that's not the same, and I'm teetering back and forth. What's the difference between legacy and imprint to you?
So to me, when I think of legacy, it's a beautiful thing, right? A legacy is typically what people remember you by. It's what they write about in books. It's what they do documentaries about. It's what that's the legacy. That's what MLK has a legacy, right? That's what they teach you in school. Your imprint is often the stuff that they won't write about, the stuff that they don't publicize, right? But it's sometimes the stuff that made your legacy even possible. It's that ugly stuff, that dirty stuff, that stuff that you changed someone's mind, you changed someone's heart, you changed their trajectory of who they are as a person just by being in their life. That's the kind of imprint that I want to make, because that's the kind of people that I look for. When I can sit back and be like, I never thought about it that way, or wow, I'm like seeing things totally different. That person made an imprint on my life. So that's them making an imprint on this world. It's kind of how I look at it.
I love the difference there. You actually helped me because I had to answer that question twice in the last 10 days or so, and I didn't want to talk about the legacy. I only wanted to talk about the imprint, but I thought it was the legacy they were. I was so confused, and that cleared it up for me right when we were prepping, and you said that. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm like popped out of my chair. If I ask
And
you about this, are you gonna?
that could just be a me thing, but I guess in my head it is different, because legacy is that easy, clean stuff, right? It's
Oh,
the
I think you
legacy,
solved
yeah.
it for me. I think
Yeah.
you're exactly right. But it is the easy stuff. It is the things, you know, and maybe talking about our imprint is a lot more important because then, one of my imprints is a carbon footprint. I flew to Dubai 100 times. I screwed up the environment doing that stuff. That's part of my imprint. It might not be my proudest part, but it is there. And I'm a human. I make mistakes. I do things wrong. I try to learn every day. And let's be authentic and lay it all out.
Yes, I like that. I love it.
No, I love what you said. It helped me a lot.
Thank
Um,
you.
so did I ask you though what your imprint, what you want it to be?
Yeah, I mean, what I say about imprint is I want there to be people in this world that, like I said, changed their thought process or their trajectory or their heart because I was in their life, even if it was for a second, even if it was just a conversation, you know, it was just a meeting or whatever the case may be, because I've had people like that, but it left something lasting that they might not tell anybody about, you know, they might not like write home about it or whatever, but something in that sparked something that, again, just made them do something different, change something different, be anything. That would be what I would want most. That's more important to me than anything.
So happiness, sadness, joy, hope, and or love. Which word or words would you like to talk about?
Happiness, joy, sadness, or love. I'd say joy. Let's talk about joy.
What do you want to talk about, Joy? Why'd you pick joy?
I picked joy because I think happiness is overrated a little bit, because happiness is weighed down a lot by, again, what like society tells us makes you happy or is supposed to make you happy, and like what being happy means, etc. But joy, I think, is a little bit different. Joy is almost like, I know what joy is, and Mike would probably call it my happy dance. When I feel joy, I do like a happy dance, because it's like this feeling that kind of like starts at the tips of your toes and it kind of comes through your whole body, and it comes out where you just gotta like show your joy. Or I'll do like jazz fingers sometimes because I feel joyous or whatever. We have a joke between us. We're like, calm down, because I get excited, you know. That's joy. And I don't think that people value, like, what's her name that does the house show or whatever, it talks about like only keep things that bring you joy, to spark joy. Maria Kondo, I think her name was. She had this whole show. So she did this whole show, and the whole thing was cleaning out your closets or whatever. And one of the processes you went through is pick it up. If it doesn't bring you joy, it goes, right? And I don't like the show. It's ridiculous, whatever. But if something doesn't bring you joy, figure out how it can. And if it doesn't have the capacity to bring you joy, it's got to go. Life is too short to not feel that giddiness that starts in your toes and comes out the top of your head. That's why I like joy. And it can be little things like laying in the hammock, you know, with my husband at, you know, Hawk Island. That brings me a lot of joy, you know.
I've always thought that joy would like leave a trail, like a sediment almost. That the more sediment from the joy you had was your happiness. Like it was the moments of joy that contributed to like a happiness bank account.
Yeah.
But everyone always confuses me now, because some people agree with that. Some people think it's just the opposite. It's the happy moments that fill your joy. But I
think the reason I get that, I can picture that. It's like a bank. Like your joy feeds into your overall happiness, right? Because overall happiness is what you're kind of looking to attain. But I think for someone like me, this is probably a me thing too. I'm not thinking about it, because happiness is different. When I live with a chronic illness, it's incurable, right? So what does happiness mean when you live with something like that, something that makes it difficult for you to do your day-to-day things? It changes you. It changes what you're capable of. It changes your capacity, right? So happiness for me translates more into feeling fulfilled, you know, and feeling content, feeling safe and supported. Those things equal happy. If I told people what my day-to-day looks like, sounds like, feels like, they'd be like, you are not happy. But I am. I am very happy, even through the worst of it all, even through the days I can't get out of bed, even through the days that I'm watching someone being hurt and harmed and I feel helpless. I'm still happy, because being diagnosed with lupus was like, from this moment forward, you got to find a different kind of happy. So I think that's probably why mine is a little bit different.
You just made me have an epiphany. So 1 out of 3 people agree with us, the way we look at happiness and the way we look at joy. 2 out of 3 people think it's the other way around, that like these some base allows you to spike, and it's just weird, it's different. But the epiphany that I just had is, if your level, if you think of it as a level of content, right? Like, I'm super fucking happy. And most people would look at me and say, look at his socks, and he wears the same damn outfit, and, all the shit that I used to worry about before, And that's not what gives me joy. It's not what makes me happy. So to me, happiness is this, and the joy is the little, I don't know, the crumbs I get to have for some things, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think you're onto something there. I'm going to form a hypothesis about this and study it a little bit more.
I think, like with all things, happiness is very fluid and it's unique. And happiness is going to look very differently for each one of us. What's happy for you might be totally different than what's happy for me. And what would spark joy for you might not spark joy for me. There's a whole lot of stuff that sparks joy for me that just people are like, what the heck? What is that? That doesn't matter. And again, happiness is probably going to look, sound, feel differently for everybody. And maybe that's a survival tactic, right?
Yeah.
You kind of have to decide what makes you happy. If you let the world decide what makes you happy, you'll just be a depressed ass person.
And you probably, like, as a woman, you get a lot of jackass males saying, oh, why aren't you smiling? Aren't you happy? What's wrong? Right?
I've gotten that quite a few times because I do I have what is universally, and I'll say lovingly known as RBF, because that's just my face, and I've had people say, like, what happened, what's wrong, or why this or whatever, and I'm like, a lot of times I'll just respond like, nope, that's just my face. And then they're kind of like, oh, that kind of makes them feel, I'm like, nope, that's just my face, because I don't want to defend not smiling or whatever the case may be, because smiling doesn't necessarily equate happiness either. Somebody could be just as happy as a pig in the mud, but they're not smiling and cheesing,
Well, there's a TikTok filter now. You can just point at somebody to make them smile all the time.
Oh, that's funny.
So there you go.
I need that. Somebody can follow me around with that.
I love the work you guys are doing. I love the work you're doing. Thank you so very, very much for coming on the show. Did we forget to talk about anything that we need to put out there real quick?
I think we covered a lot. I'll just do a couple reminders. If you want to support the village, definitely visit our website. I think you put it in the comments. We've got the next big thing coming up is we're doing some employment workshops, and then we're doing an employment resource day. And we're going to basically be prepping people that are interested in a job with Sparrow. Sparrow has a really big job fair that they do in September. And so the week before they have their big job fair, we are going to have them on site at the village, prepping people to look for jobs, see if anything, fits into what they can do, tell them what they need, et cetera, et cetera. And then the weeks leading up to that, we'll be prepping them on resumes, stuff like that. But we'll also have some employers there that day. We'll hopefully have manpower for like some temporary contract positions, stuff like that. We're going to have MSU food out there. They hire 16, 17, and 18-year-olds. So we're going to have them out there that day. We're going to have MSU, FCU out there opening accounts, because you need a bank account. That helps when you have a job. We're also going to have clothes available they can take home with them, like, interview clothes, business casual type clothes. So really cool thing that we got going on. I'm really excited about there. And then with Merica, that, like I said, the biggest thing is we're excited to get a few more people on to our limited time ad packages. I'm really excited to do those, and then keep an eye out on our website for our Patreon, and maybe you can even help us build it. You tell us, what would you want to be included in a Patreon type thing? We're very interactive with our fam. So
I love it. All right, everyone. Every damn day, 2 p.m. Tomorrow I've got Oprah. Sunday I've got Ida. She's got a great story about her child. And come learn more about Oprah, especially if you can vote in Ward 2. You're going to want to hear this. And in general, just come learn more about how we're trying to solve the problems in our city. So, what would you like to take us out with, Erica?
Real quick, because a shout out I forgot to give and I meant to give is to you and Shannon and the Pledge.
Oh, shit.
Because y'all are awesome. Y'all are just awesome. I think Mike and I toured it separately, but we both came away feeling the same way. Like, this is just an amazing space. It's everything that you would want a space to be that's trying to help and serve people. That was our thought process with the Village. You know, they feel safe, supported, loved, and there's resources. That's what the Pledge is. And you and Shannon are just doing some amazingly awesome things. Y'all are some great people. I came into a relationship with you, not even knowing who you were, what you were about at the Pledge. And that I always tell people, I'm like, we were doing our first annual open house and Jerry just kind of pops in like, he's just some volunteer, like, hey, we'll run this tent for you. And then you showed up with all the things and all these people. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? And then I start hearing about the Pledge and I'm like, how did that not come up, Jerry? You just totally didn't recognize. So that told me a lot of what I needed to know about you as a person, because you didn't come in and try. It was like, hey, I'm here to support the Village. And that's what you did. So from that point on, I'm like, yeah, Jerry and the Pledge it's the shit. So I wanted to give y'all a shout out too. And thank you for having me on the show. It's been awesome.
I think we're kindred spirits, the four of us here. And we have a lot in common. We've got a lot of things that we're trying to do, and we want to be part of your village.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And the thing I'll leave everybody with, our village, exactly. That's what I would say. I would leave everybody with is the Village, Lansing, the Village is not just an organization. It is a mindset. Support us, stand in the gap with us. You'd be surprised at the ways that you can help. So just get at us. On Merica, there's a whole ton of ways that you can support Merica, but I would say learn more about us, cruise our website, our Facebook page, look at some of the things that, I think if you learn a little bit more about Merica, what we do, what our intentions are, our true intentions, you'll learn a little bit more about why you hear the things that you do about us. That will make a lot more sense. And just support in any way you can. Independent media is important, and it's not easy at all. So yeah, get at us. And if you need help with something, obviously get at us too.
Thank you so very much for coming on the show and talking with us. And thank you for the work you're doing to build our community.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Thanks everybody for watching.